Are you dealing with some tough emotions right now? And you're wondering how can you handle these emotions when they're too intense? Well, today I'm going to talk about some tips on dealing with emotions for you today. Thank you for being here. I appreciate you for spending this time with me. Now, many years ago, or not even that long ago, I'm going to be honest, I would have a challenge with staying with my emotions. And even unconsciously, I was running away from them. So, most weekends in my 20s, for example, I'd go out and get pretty drunk, right? And whilst there was an element of this is fun, like the social, which is, nothing wrong with that, socializing and things like that, there was an element of like, I don't want to be alone sitting with my own feelings on a Saturday night or over the weekend, right? And I would run from them. And I've noticed, even when I've given up drink, it's like there's other activities I'll do that make me run away from my own emotions. That could be in the form of scrolling social media. It could be in the form of checking my phone too much. It could be in the form of eating food, buying random food. It could be many different things, right? And what I've learned over time is to catch myself a lot better. Am I running away from a feeling? And now I'm in a place where I don't get it right all the time. I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, I've absolutely mastered my emotions and I never do anything to distract myself, because I do now and then. And I'll catch myself and call myself out for it. Being able to do that, though, really allows me to feel a lot more. Now, there's a lot of people I've learned, and this is like me, there's been me many times, who will do almost anything to run away from their emotions. Now, before I dive a little bit more into the episode, I just wanted to mention that if you're a man and you're wanting to really up-level your emotional work, your work as a man, for your professional life, for your personal life, then I am taking on free one-to-one spots for free guys to work with me, where we'll really create a system for you so that you can work through your emotions in your personal and professional life to move further faster. So all you got to do is message me the word growth, and I'll personally reach out to you to see if you are a right fit for this. This is something that I'm not going to be running for too much longer. I wanted to give an opportunity for a crazy, crazy deal for just free guys. So don't hold back if you're hesitating, because the spots may not be there and the time's only limited that I'm doing this for the next weeks. So, diving back into emotions, we run from pain. As human beings, running from pain is a very normal thing, right? We run away from pain because that keeps us alive. If like you see a real threat, like whether it's a wild animal, wild person, a weapon, some kind of danger, you're going to run. And that's good. That's great, because it's going to increase your chances of survival. Of cars coming towards you on the road, it's not slowing you down. You're going to run away from it. That's a good move, because that's going to keep you alive and safe. The problem is the brains can create dangers or magnify dangers that aren't really dangers, and thinks we're in like fight or flight, life or death kind of mode. And as human beings, when we're feeling a tough emotion, a lot of us tend to run away from it because it's like this feeling of discomfort. I don't want to experience this, so I'm going to find any way I can to get rid of this. And sometimes that involves a lot of self-sabotage with money, with things like money, gambling, smoking, alcohol, drugs. We do that to avoid pain, to feeling hard emotions. Now, the thing is, I've also learned is if you can't sit and experience the tough emotions, and it's not about being in that space all the time, but now and then we've got to process them, and we're going to go into some steps today. How can you expect to really experience the great emotions? It's a quote I once heard. I'll say that again. If you can't sit with yourself in the tough emotions, how can you really fully feel the beautiful emotions when they come up as well? I know for me, when I've allowed myself to cry, grieve, whether it's a loss of a relationship, a person, a job, or a business opportunity, Not actually, that probably wasn't a too dramatic a level for me in life yet for me to be grieving about it. Some people do lose a business that's a grieving process, or a pet, or whatever you're grieving about, right? When I've allowed myself to go through those grieving moments and feel it, that's allowed me to feel the beautiful emotions a lot more. So how is it helping you by running away from tough emotions? Because if you're anything like me, it just builds up and can create some quite self-sabotaging, not so good behavior if you ignore your emotions. And that's what we're going to go in today. Some tips for you. So let's dive in to these tips that have really helped me work through my emotions. Again, it's a work in progress. Don't listen to me please listen to me. That'd be great. Not that you need to. Don't listen to me in the sense of like thinking that I'm a guru and I know everything, because I'm sure you realize that I don't. I'm just sharing my experience. We're all human beings sharing our experience. Anyone who tells you that they know everything is lying, because they don't, right? And I'm always a work in progress. This is what has worked for me to be from a place where so many things would impact me and I'd be downhill emotionally easily, to actually being pretty grounded in myself and being able to hold my own emotions, sit with them in silence, and hold the capacity for other people's emotions as well. So the first tip I want to give you is give yourself some time to process emotions and time for action. Now, it's not 50-50 split, and I'm going to explain what I mean by this. A lot of times you can get caught up in the whole, I need to process my emotions and I'm not going to do anything until I do. Now, if you've got bills to pay and you don't go out and work and don't go and do your job because you're sitting processing your emotions all day, what's going to happen? You're going to get evicted from where you live because you're not paying the bills, of course, right? So there needs to be some kind of action, for example. If you've got a business, you need to run it, right? But also on the flip side, if you're just taking action all the time and ignoring your emotions, that's not going to be very good either. Now, people do this. They put themselves into the ground, they ignore their emotions, and it can come out in ugly ways, lashing out or even worse at people or at ourselves. So for me, it's about doing both of these, and it's not a 50-50 split. It's not like half your time processing emotion. It's not half your time taking action. It's what you need when you sit yourself and honestly ask yourself. And I'll expand a little bit more on what I mean by this. So let's use a breakup, which is a classic one. And it can drain a lot of emotions. Like, I know certainly for me, it can draw me in. It's drawn me into like really low on energy, and I could not do the same amount of work because my body's in fight or flight. I feel like I've lost something, and I'm just not feeling so good, right? Now, the level of action I can take in that state is a lot less than I can take right now, right? So I remember, like, I had a coach who told me, "Oh, you should get out there dating again," like a week after it not working out with someone, and I was like, "No." And I'm glad I said no. But like 6 months later, I was still in that place. And I was lying to myself. I was like, I was ready to get out there. I was just scared, right? Now, I'm not saying I've talked about this before, and some people have been impacted by what I said. So I want to be very clear here. Make a judgment for yourself on what you're ready to do. Like, there's no time scale. I'm not going to give anyone a time scale on like when you should be taking more action and when you should be processing more. It's for you to understand, but you have to be brutally honest with yourself, right? So for example, if like you've just broken up with someone for a week, I'm just using this example that's a very common one. Next week, and then you're like, actually you want a loving relationship, maybe the next week is not the best time to go on a load of dates because you're still processing it. So maybe you're just working on bits of self-love and things like that. However, if it's 5 years down the line and you're like, I was really heartbroken, and I'm still processing that, again, like, you got to ask yourself the question, maybe it's true, maybe it's not. Are you really processing that, or are you just scared of taking action, right? You are processing that, but can you really not like take any kind of action and move forward? So again, like, I want to be clear, there's no time scale I'm giving you. It just comes for your own decision on like, is it a time where you need to be processing emotions and feeling emotions more than taking action, or are you doing both? Like for me right now, I process a lot of emotions and I take a lot of action, right? Because I'm not in a dark place. I have my wounds and some triggers and emotions come up, and I'll sit with them, and I need to, especially as I'm evolving. By the way, the more I found I've evolved, the more I need to sit with my emotions, because that's really important. But I'm also taking a lot of action in my business, in my relationships, all different areas, right? So having a time to process your emotions and take action, I found is really, really key. And like I say, it's not 50-50 split. It might be for you, but I'm not saying it's necessarily 50-50, and make the judgment for yourself. Do you really need to keep processing your emotions more and not taking the action? That may be the case if you just lost someone, of course. Like if you're grieving, you're losing someone, you're going to be processing a lot more than you're going to be going out in the world and taking action on things, right? Understandable, right? It's being very honest with yourself. Listen to your heart and what you need for you. But for me, I suggest understanding what you need in terms of emotional time sitting for yourself and what you need in terms of taking action. There are, of course, those people out there who are like, right, I'm just taking action. They don't process emotions and they come out in nasty ways as well. So understand it for you. The second thing I'm going to say about dealing with emotions, have a training regime like you're training for a marathon. The emotional workout is equally, if not more important than the physical workout. I'll say that again. For me, the emotional workout is equally, if not more important than the physical workout. You don't stop working out after a few weeks and you're fit for life. No, the same is with your emotions. You work on your emotions every single day. So have a regime. A lot of people, and I see this mistake very commonly, and that's what I used to do. I wouldn't work on my emotions until I got into a dark or bad place. A lot of people are like, right, I'm in a really dark place. Now I'm going to start working myself. Why do you need to wait? It's like waiting for the car to run out of fuel and then going, I need to go get some fuel. No, you need to consistently be topping up that fuel like your emotions. So your emotions are something regularly that you need to be looking at every single day and thinking about a regime. And what is a regime for you? I don't want to give like a set plan for you, right? If I was working with someone one-on-one, like the men's stuff, the one-to-one I'm offering and people I've worked with in the past, then of course we'd be looking what more specific for you. But know what it is for yourself. Maybe it's breathwork, maybe it's meditation, maybe it's a walk in the morning. What do you need to do to be with your emotions? For me, I find writing down, I'll just share what works for me, writing down as I go through days, if something pops up and it niggles me a little bit and I'm like, oh, that's impacted my body. I'm very conscious about when I feel something in the body. I'm like, okay, that thought, that belief, that thing I saw or heard or read has impacted me. Okay. And then what I'll do is I'll make sure, maybe not there and then, but at a later time, I'll make a brief note of it, that I go in and explore that a little bit more. I'm saying, okay, what's the meaning I put behind it and what's actually more of an empowering truth? And for fears, why is that false? Okay, and then you got your training regime. The next thing is to have a response plan in place. What do I mean by a response plan? So when emotions get tough, even a little bit, and it's better, I've got a mentor who said this: kill the baby monster before it becomes massive or big, right? While it's a baby. And what that means is, it's not about killing monsters or anything, but it's an analogy, right? When an emotion gets so intense in your body that it takes over, it's going to be very hard to work with it. You can work with it, and there's things you can do, scream, let it out, and chances are that may always happen because sometimes things just come at us from nowhere. But if there's something that's like niggling you and it gets bigger through the day, tackle it when it's smaller. So when something pops up for you, have a little bit of a response process in place. What are you going to do? Are you going to just do some breath work? You're just going to observe it? Have a plan in place so that you don't get caught in emotion and it takes over. This is what I do personally, the 3-step process. And I was asked this on my men's group earlier. I identify what exactly is going on. Oh, I'm feeling a little bit of anxiety in my chest right now. I'm just labeling it, okay? And that is coming from something I read on maybe Instagram or saw on Instagram or something like that, right? And that's why I limit my social media where possible. And in this world, we're very distracted, so things can get to us all the time, right? Okay, that's impacted me. Now, the second part I would do is be like, right, I'm feeling that in my body, my chest, it feels really intense. And I allow myself to feel the emotion, like proper allow it. And when you allow yourself and you don't resist it, it will tend to go to neutral or joy. So allow yourself to experience that. And then the third thing I do is then I anchor in the opposite, something good, and I feel like a good memory, and I put a smile on my face and go, yes. So that is my response. It is training on my brain to understand what's going on and then anchor myself into a good place. So that's just my example of a response plan in place for emotions. I want to touch on two more points. Just before that, I want to mention again that if you're a man and you're looking to work one-on-one with me, or if you know a man who could really do with that support in terms of working on their emotions so that you can go further, faster in your personal, professional life, then all you got to do is message me the word growth on social media. I will leave my links in the show notes below. I'm only limiting it to 3 guys. It's a very, very special offer. I won't do anything crazy like this again. And it's only been running for the remaining coming weeks as well. So message me the word growth on social media. I will leave my links below, or you can just find me, jonnycpardoe, on Instagram, Facebook, or LinkedIn. Okay, my next point for working through your emotions is dancing or shaking that body, feeling into the body. Often we can be in our mind, be like, okay, I'm thinking about this. This is what I'm processing. Okay, that's great. And it's definitely better than like neglecting it or just screaming at someone else or something like that. But if you like try and process it mentally, it doesn't take out the majority of the emotion that is stored in the body, because emotions are stored in our body, not just like in our head thinking about it. And the chemicals from our thoughts are stored in our body from our experiences. So therefore, if you can feel into that emotion in the body, you're going to allow it to express itself and therefore release itself. We're human beings. We're not meant to suppress and repress things. We do when they're really painful or we don't want them. And that's not healthy because it builds up. Expressing is key, right? And in healthy ways, right? If you're feeling a lot of anger, rage, screaming or shouting at someone is not a healthy way. But screaming into a pillow, dancing around in your own home is quite a healthy way to release it because you're allowing yourself to express it. So find some time for you to dance around to express things as much as possible, because the more you do that, the more you're going to allow it to come out of your body. And then the fifth point I want to share is have a container to share your emotions, to deal with it. For me, I've talked about men's groups. For a man, it's really, really powerful. And that's what I do with the one-on-one as well. So if you can find a container to work with people in where you can really express your emotions to them, not be judged, people who can actually listen, have that capacity to, things like men's group, there's women's group for women, and there's different groups of different genders, of course, and all sorts of people. But find yourself a good group, or even like a coach or a therapist or someone you can lean into and talk to. If you feel uncomfortable with a person, you can leave, you can change, right? And don't be guilty if you don't feel comfortable sharing with someone, because I've had many like close people in my life, like, I'm here for you, mate. I'll share what you want. And they bless their hearts, but they don't have the ability to listen or hold the space. Having the intention to listen and hold the space for someone and having the capacity to do it, I found out the hard way are two different things. I remember I wanted to do that for someone I really cared about. It didn't work out. And I didn't have the capacity to hold space for her. And that was upsetting to me because all the fears, the wounds came up for me. And I learned from that to really work on myself so I could hold the emotions for myself. And now fast forward, I'm in a lot better position now to hold that space for other people. Some people won't do the work on themselves, like I'm committed to. Are you committing to doing the work on yourself? But find yourself, and then I found a really amazing few coaches, and these were guys who had this real strong masculine presence. And for me, right, okay, I know some people are going to debate this, but for me, a healthy masculinity, and by the way, all genders have different, have both masculine and feminine qualities in them, but healthy masculinity for me, I know it's very subjective, is about holding presence and space for the flow of someone else's emotions. I'll say that again. Healthy masculinity is about holding that space, that container for someone else to express their emotions. There's a lot of this, masculine's all about doing, going. No, there's a presence to it as well. So finding someone who's got that presence for you can be really, really helpful, because the flow of emotions is the feminine side of you. And we all have this, whether we're guys, women, or another gender, right? We all have masculine and feminine qualities in us. So find a container to share those emotions, to let them flow. In our men's group, what we do is, like, I might be expressing my emotions like I was earlier, and I'm like saying, okay, this wound's coming up and I'm feeling upset from that. I'm also feeling really good over here. And the two guys are just holding space for me. They're listening and they're being very considerate. And then when I'm letting that out, I feel good. And then I'm holding my masculine presence for when they're letting their emotions out. So find yourself a container where you're safe to do that. If you need any guidance on that, of course, you can message me as well. So that's what I got for you today. I really want to talk about dealing with emotions. So key, because life is emotions, how you experience it. So go through the points again, find some time for processing and time for action. It's not 50-50 split. See what you need. The second thing is have a training regimes for your emotions, like you do a physical workout. The third thing is have a response process when things are starting to ball up even a little bit. Have yourself a response process so you can process them. The fourth point was about dancing, moving the body to shake it out, because your emotions are in your body, so allow yourself to express. And then the fifth thing is having the container to also express them with people you feel safe. So that's what I got for you today. I appreciate you for being here, and remember to lead with your heart and not with fear.